Okay, Garnet again, and we're on the Neuroplastic Assessment subject. We did an introduction, we did a bit of discussion about the no assessment. Now we'll do one which is probably going to be one of the main ones you use all the time should you choose to do assessments. I'll call it the subjective assessment. Subjective assessment means you take an impression from the person that you're wanting to assess. It's your take, your feeling, the vibe, call it what you want. But actually, this is really critically important to understand that we all have an innate, inborn biological ability to do this. The fancy name for this is sometimes called Neuroception. Neuroception is the category of perceptions that you are having, but they tend to be below your conscious awareness. It's a sense that you have that is operating at such a core or root level that you may not even be consciously aware. In terms of cognition, you may not really be reflecting upon it. Neuroception. This is built into us, into all creatures, because as organisms we want to survive, and we're always kind of scanning environmental experiences to assess whether there's threat or not. Not only is it just, is that being threatening to me, but is this environment, you hear a noise, there's a smell, something is rustling over in the trees. We have this inborn, and you have it all the time. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, recognize and respect that you have that ability, and I'm going to help it by just putting this little checklist template over the top of it. The template is derived from the 4 types of neuroplastic brain exercise, and these names are purposely chosen to give us the perspective of the soma. So it's not, the names for these things could be very, very complicated, but by making it similar to the way that we value or assess the body gives you a very strong, very efficient shortcut into assessing the brain. So yes, it's coordination, flexibility, endurance, and strength. So if you want to make a subjective assessment of a person relative to the Neuro Light and maybe neuroplasticity in general, what I recommend is using those 4: coordination, flexibility, endurance, strength. Always do them in the same sequence. If you do them in the same sequence, then you'll be able to remember them easily, and it's going to come automatically in a short period of time. So if a person comes in and you experience them, on first hit, you're already able, if you want, to make up a story. I would sometimes do this in the past, partly as fun, partly as a kind of an exercise, and partly as a kind of a curious challenge, where I would just sit in a public place, see a person, and make up a story about them. What's going on? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Even what health problems they may have, and what's going to happen. Now, that can be either just silly fantasy or something more important. Anyway, I won't suggest that you have it so open-ended and kind of play like Oracle Mystic or something. Make it more simple, make it more direct. When you see this person, without trying to peer into their skull to their brain, recognizing that the body is the brain is the body, that whatever happens in the body is also happening in the brain. I can't move my hand like this without a correlating activity in my brain. And you could see that if you had the proper equipment. So when you see the person, how do you value them? in terms of foundation, intermediate, and advanced. It's just 3. We could make it 10 or 20 or 119, but right now let's just make it 3. Their coordination, how coordinated are they? How agile are they? What would you say about their hand-eye coordination, the gracefulness or lack of, how they walk, how they go to sit down in the chair, even their like the voice rhythms, the tone. Do you feel that this is an agile person? Are they Are they able to do, what's the old thing? Pat your head and rub your stomach. Can they chew gum and walk? Can they do multiple things at the same time and have them coordinated? That's the first one. And just you mentally did it, just choose. Second is their flexibility, their ability to have varied positions, not only of their body, but even, say, in subject matter. Do they have to hold strong to one subject? Can they move flexibly in and out? And again, it has a all these are related, obviously, but you can see the relationship between flexibility and coordination. Think of your body. Obviously, a person that has more flexibility will, in all likelihood, have a better chance at being coordinated. One is not equal to the other, but all 4 of these will relate, which of course they should, because when it comes to function, they're all integrated as one expression. So the first thing is, how coordinated, how agile are they somatically in their body movements and the expressions, their voice, the way they look around, the way they shake your hand, the way they get in and out of the chair. You can see already, okay, I rate them intermediate coordination, but foundation flexibility. Third one, endurance. We could say stamina, right? Are they able to keep up a somewhat increased or elevated level of demand for a longer period of time? Or do they seem to kind of poop out? And you can even hear this, in a point of discussion where there they are, and they just seem, when they move into increased intensity, they don't seem to be able to hold that for very long, and they start to fade. So that would be your third category, their endurance or stamina, the ability to stay at higher signaling rates for longer periods of time. The fourth one, strength. Can they move into significant intensity on demand? Do they seem strong enough? Again, going back somatically, if they go to sit in the chair and you see that they have to support themselves to do that simple action, or if getting out of the chair or moving from the chair to the table, you can see that they have to kind of, use momentum and a little bit of a grunt, and geez, they don't really seem to be that strong. I understand that this somatic perspective on assessment is not precisely the same as assessing the neuroplastic capacity of the brain, but it is so close that it works well. Notice I'm not saying test or measure, it's assessment. You make an assessment of somebody. It makes me think more like in Olympic judging, where there are events where the machines do it. How fast is the person? How high can they jump? But there are a lot of other ones that are subjective, where they'll have a number of judges, and the judges will give scores based on their perceptions. And of course, there are technical points they'll use, but you don't have just one judge, because an assessment has only a probability of accuracy, which is different than, like in the swimming competitions, where they win sometimes by 100th, if not like a 1,000th of a second. Crazy stuff. Accurate, but you'd never know if you didn't have a machine. Nobody really has a foolproof technique on making a full broad spectrum assessment of the brain's neuroplastic capacity. Techniques are being developed in one area or another. Here we are in wellness. We're not in practice of medicine, and we want to have some kind of reasonable way of making a judgment, an assessment, a choice, a guesstimate, as to how much stimulation can this person comfortably integrate so that the process is going to be successful. So that's the subjective assessment. The challenge in it, in my experience, is self-doubt, where you doubt that you're able to do that. Well, you can. Work on it and understand that if you're concerned that your assessment may not be really as accurate as you would like it to be, then all you've got to do is play it safe. Anytime that you want to take a chance or risk an error, always do it on the conservative side. Always take it down a notch. And then when you think of it, most of the people that you're going to encounter that are attracted to the Neuro Light, not all, but many, if not most, are going to be at a lower level of capacity. Think of it this way. How many people could you say you've met, that are at an advanced level in every one of the categories? They are advanced in coordination, advanced in flexibility, advanced in endurance, advanced in strength. You know, these are rare individuals. Rare individuals. You know, maybe for a few years of their life, these are Olympic class athletes. But, you know, age, if nothing else, works against everything being advanced. What you're going to see is that for most people, there'll be weakness in one of the four. It may be intermediate or even right down at foundation. And that's where you're going to be spending most of your time. Really, the only times when you're going to be working up at an advanced level are for people that are really interested in growing into higher levels of performance. Now, that performance could be, you know, in a sense, athletic, but it could also be in terms of intelligence. It could be the increased performance in serious regulated spiritual practices. It could be those that are, you know, the psychonauts that really want to push into those sort of outer limits of experience. Then the advanced levels in the brain gym exercises and advanced levels in the brain skills start to come into play. Now, again, don't be afraid of the terms and the concepts. I would recommend that you give yourself some experiences in the intermediate and certainly in the advanced compositions and just kind of see what they're like. One way, and here's a trick, I'm going to finish the segment now, one way to soften the demand in a brain gym exercise or in a brain skills composition is to decrease the general light intensity of the overall experience. You know, on your user interface, you have that slide bar. For example, myself, I have a room where I have a very low level of light, and I work with the lamp, you know, maybe about 25, almost 30 centimeters from my face. And my average light intensity is around 12%. More is sometimes fine, other times less. If it's dark, the room is dark because it's nighttime, and or I'm more fatigued, or I've had certain kinds of like instabilities in health or something, I feel my vitality is low. Also, it's evening. In a dark room, of course, the light seems more bright, right? Take a flashlight in the daytime, take a flashlight at night, and although it's the same flashlight, it'll seem so much brighter at night. So one of the ways of kind of softening a demand once you've made a choice in either the exercises of the brain gym or the compositions of the brain skills is to decrease the general light intensity on your user interface. Okay, so that's the little bit long-winded subjective assessment.